The series begins with a young woman named Miki riding a bus back to the small town of Savage River. The moment she gets off, she walks straight down to the river and sits alone on a rock, staring at the water. 10 years earlier, this same river became the center of the crime that destroyed her life. Miki was convicted of killing her best friend Jasmine and spent a decade in prison for supposedly drowning her there. While Miki is sitting by the water, her twin brother Terry is at home baking a cake. His daughter Ocean asks whether the cake is for her birthday. Terry laughs and explains that it is for his sister, who is finally coming home. Ocean is fascinated to learn that Miki and her father are twins, although they are not identical. As Miki walks back into town, she passes a local shop where Deborah, a lawyer campaigning to become mayor, is asking Colleen to display one of her election posters. Colleen is talking with her when she suddenly spots Miki outside. The sight freezes her in place. Colleen has every reason to react that way. She is Jasmine's mother. Miki reaches Terry's house and is greeted with a huge hug. Savage River is the kind of town where almost everyone knows everyone else's history, which makes Miki's return even harder. She cannot walk into a shop, a bar, or a workplace without wondering who remembers the newspaper headlines from 10 years earlier. Some people stare openly. Others pretend not to recognize her. A few are kind, but even that kindness often carries the uncomfortable feeling that they are trying to prove how forgiving they can be. Miki responds by keeping her emotions tightly controlled. She does not apologize every time someone looks at her because she has already spent 10 years being punished. What she wants now is a chance to earn money, sleep without prison doors around her, and build some kind of relationship with Terry and Ocean. Terry understands that better than most, but he is also frightened by how quickly the town's old wounds begin reopening around his sister. Lynn reacts differently. She loves Miki fiercely, yet that love makes her willing to lie, destroy evidence, and interfere whenever she thinks the police might drag her daughter back to prison. The family therefore becomes both Miki's safest place and one of the biggest complications in the investigation. Every choice they make to protect her creates another secret somebody may later discover. Terry introduces her to Ocean, who is curious but not afraid of the aunt she has heard so much about. Miki retreats to her old room, where memories of Jasmine immediately begin coming back. Exhausted by the day and by the town's reaction to her return, she falls asleep. The next morning, current Mayor Max notices Deborah's campaign poster and is irritated to see Hugh and Colleen publicly supporting her. Deborah has been criticizing conditions at the local abattoir and is rumored to want major changes there. Max is especially concerned because the plant is one of the biggest employers in Savage River. Hugh insists Deborah is not trying to destroy the business. She simply wants the workers, many of whom are refugees and migrants, to be treated fairly and paid properly. Back at Terry's house, Ocean secretly watches Miki painting her nails until someone rings the bell. Colleen and Hugh are standing outside with a box. Miki is immediately uncomfortable. Hugh can tell she does not want visitors, and Miki admits that after 10 years behind bars, she is not used to people showing up at her door. Colleen tells her they came because they want her to know they have forgiven her for Jasmine's death. Miki does not know what to say. Later, Miki reports to the local police station as required by the conditions of her release. Sergeant Bill tells her she must check in every week and warns that he will be keeping a close eye on her. Miki tells him she is not looking for trouble. She wants a normal life and nothing more. Trying to find work, Miki stops at a supermarket and recognizes an old classmate named Ta, who is heavily pregnant. Miki casually mentions that they knew each other at school. Ta seems friendly until she realizes who Miki is. The warmth disappears immediately, and Miki is left standing there with another reminder that the town has not forgotten. At the pharmacy, she notices a job opening and asks Ivy, the young woman behind the counter, about it. Ivy calls over Connor, the pharmacist. He asks Miki whether she has any pharmacy experience. She does not. Rather than stay through the awkward interview, Miki tells him to forget it and asks if he can pierce her ears instead. Back home, Miki opens the box Colleen brought. Among the clothes is a piece of paper that falls to the floor. It is a hand-drawn map made by Jasmine years ago, showing where she buried a childhood time capsule. Terry invites Miki to have lunch with the family, but she says she is going out. Miki takes the map to Hugh. She thinks giving him something connected to Jasmine might mean something. Hugh reacts very differently than Colleen. He says his daughter was stolen from him, and that no apology can return the years he lost. He throws the map away and orders Miki out. Colleen arrives just in time to see Miki leaving and Hugh shouting after her. At the bar, Miki runs into Simon, her former teacher, and the man she once had a crush on. Years earlier, while Miki was in prison, Simon visited her and encouraged her to study. Then the visit stopped. Miki confronts him about disappearing after giving her hope. Simon tries to explain, but she is too angry to hear it and walks away. Back inside, she meets Joel, a young worker from the abattoir. He buys her a drink and does not seem nearly as judgmental as the rest of town. That night, Mayor Max returns home and talks to his son Simon about Deborah's campaign. Simon apologizes for not helping more, explaining that he has been busy teaching English classes to local refugees. Elsewhere, Jamila is praying when her husband Salem comes in carrying a gift. Jamila refuses it. Their son died, and after that loss, Salem began drinking heavily. Jamila believes his behavior has brought even more pain into their lives. When Miki gets home, Terry is waiting. He tells her that wandering around bars was not what they discussed before her release, and that he needs her to start building a stable life. Miki promises she will find a job. Terry gives her a phone so they can stay in contact and asks a favor. He cannot take Ocean to daycare the next morning. Miki agrees. Terry also suggests she ask about work at the abattoir. The next morning, Miki walks Ocean to daycare. Ocean asks what prison was like. Miki gives her a simple answer a child can understand. She says it felt like the first day at daycare when you do not know anyone, except in prison you cannot go home at the end of the day. She tells Ocean how happy she is to finally be free. At the abattoir, owner Kevin initially says there are no openings. The abattoir becomes the center of nearly every conflict in town because it connects people who would otherwise have little reason to deal with one another. Kevin owns it and treats the business as something he can squeeze for profit before selling. Refugee workers depend on it because losing those jobs could threaten their visas, housing, and ability to support their families. Local workers, such as Nick, Joel, Dale, and Adam, have grown used to Kevin's management style even when they hate it. Hugh keeps challenging Kevin because he sees how vulnerable the workers are. Deborah sees the plant as a political issue and believes better treatment could help her campaign. Max sees it as an economic asset that has to survive no matter what happens to the employees. Chandra sees the sale as her chance to leave Kevin and start over. Terry becomes emotionally entangled with Chandra. Rachel is Kevin's ex-wife and therefore cannot investigate him without everyone questioning whether history is influencing her decisions. Once Hugh's body appears, every one of those relationships becomes part of the murder case. A missing knife, erased surveillance footage, stolen meat, a hidden pregnancy, Kevin's late-night movements, and Hugh's secret financial withdrawals all point in different directions. That is exactly why Miki refuses to accept the first explanation the police offer. She knows better than anyone how easily one story can become the official truth, simply because it is convenient. A worker named Dale suggests putting Miki in the position recently vacated by Isla. Joel and several others join in, pressuring Kevin until he reluctantly agrees. He tells Miki she can sort off all and scrub floors. Dale shows Miki the changing room and gives her Isla's old locker. She explains that Isla quit after becoming fed up with Kevin's controlling behavior. Inside the locker are clothes and a photo. Miki gathers them up, planning to return them to Isla's family. On the processing floor, Salem sees Miki talking to Kevin about Isla's position. Isla is Jamila's sister. Salem tries to ask questions, but Kevin snaps at him to get back to work. The message is clear. Kevin does not appreciate workers challenging him. During lunch, Joel asks Miki to go somewhere with him, but she declines and instead takes Isla's belongings to Jamila. Jamila wants to know whether Miki heard anything about where her sister went. Miki tells her it is literally her first day, and she knows nothing. While leaving the refugee housing area, Miki notices Hugh helping one of the families by delivering electrical appliances. It becomes another reminder that Hugh, despite his anger toward her, spends a lot of time helping people in town. At home, Terry tells his mother Lynn that Miki is going to be around and asks her to make an effort. Lynn insists she did not push Miki away. Miki was the one who distanced herself. At the abattoir, Kevin's wife Chandra asks why he hired a convicted killer. Kevin says Miki's presence will not matter because he expects to sell the plant to investors within weeks. Once the deal closes, he plans to leave the problems behind. Later, while Miki helps load meat onto a truck, she comes face to face with Adam, Jasmine's brother. The encounter is painful for both of them. Adam cannot believe the woman convicted of killing his sister is working beside him as if she belongs there. Hugh later confronts Kevin over his treatment of the workers. Kevin asks the employees directly whether they have complaints. Salem says Kevin charges them for water and electricity and barely gives them time off. Kevin immediately gets angry, orders everyone back to work, and warns Hugh to stay out of his business. At the end of the shift, Nick apologizes to Miki for earlier jokes and offers to buy her a drink. Then he claims he forgot his bag and asks her to come back inside with him. It is a setup. Nick locks Miki inside the meat freezer and walks away. At first, she thinks he will return in a few seconds, then minutes pass. The cold becomes painful. Miki bangs on the door and screams his name, but nobody answers. At the same time, Hugh returns home with Jasmine's map. He digs in the garden until he finds the time capsule his daughter buried years ago. What he discovers inside appears to disturb him deeply. Eventually, Miki finds a metal bar and manages to force the freezer door open. She stumbles into the plant, shivering and furious. Then she hears something. Before she can understand where the noise is coming from, a body falls directly onto her. It is Hugh. Miki panics. Blood covers her clothes and skin. She pushes the body away, runs outside, jumps on her bike, and flees. On the way home, she uses a garden hose to wash blood from herself. When she enters the house, Lynn sees the stained clothes and immediately realizes something terrible happened. The next morning, Lynn quietly feeds her animals and slips Miki's bloody clothing in with the scraps, effectively destroying evidence. Meanwhile, Colleen wakes and realizes Hugh never came home. She wakes Adam, terrified. Adam tries to calm her and says Hugh's car probably broke down. He goes out to search. Lynn tells Miki that there has been no public report about Hugh yet. Miki says she should go to the police and explain what happened at the plant. Lynn stops her. With Miki's history, she says, nobody will believe that a murder victim simply fell on top of her. They will assume she killed him. Lynn tells her to keep quiet and go to work like nothing happened. Colleen calls Hugh's brother and asks whether Hugh stayed with him. The man says he has not seen Hugh in over a month, even though Colleen believed Hugh visited him only 2 days earlier. Confused and frightened, she hangs up. Elsewhere, Nick visits Salem, who is cleaning blood from one of the abattoir trucks. Nick reminds him to return the vehicle and take some money before leaving. Miki goes to the police station for her required check-in and tells Bill she found work at the abattoir. While she is there, Colleen reports Hugh missing. She explains that he left behind his diabetes kit, something he would never do. Bill says there may be a simple explanation. Colleen mentions Hugh had delivered a washing machine to refugees and had argued with Miki after Colleen encouraged him to forgive her. At work, Miki is stunned to find the plant floor completely clean. There is no blood and no sign that Hugh's body was ever there. She asks Dale to cover for her and slips into the security room. The surveillance footage has been erased. Someone cleaned the plant and wiped the cameras before morning. Meanwhile, Max meets Kevin and says he heard about the investors. He reminds Kevin about an old loan and wants repayment with interest once the sale closes. Max even suggests firing much of the workforce and rehiring them under worse contracts to reduce costs. Back at the plant, Joel invites Miki to a fireworks celebration. She initially refuses. Then she notices him handing his knife to Salem, a detail that will matter later. Deborah and Connor discuss their foster son Tim. Now that Tim is 18, they are considering formally adopting him. Colleen discovers Jasmine's time capsule and breaks down while looking through her daughter's belongings. At work, Miki questions Brenda, the cook, about who arrives first in the mornings and who has access to the plant. Brenda says she has a back key but denies knowing anything about theft or suspicious activity. Around town, Ivy is hanging out with friends Tim and KG near a lake. They tease her after discovering she has a boyfriend she has kept secret. While fooling around, they find a car hidden near the woods. Ivy drives it recklessly until it runs out of fuel. Tim checks the trunk and finds a cloth bundle soaked with blood. Back at the abattoir, Adam asks workers whether they have seen Hugh. Dale says no. Kevin tells Adam his father probably got tired of town and went away for a few days. Salem tells Jamila that Hugh is missing. Jamila immediately wonders whether Isla could have disappeared with him. She urges Salem to find out where Hugh was the previous day. Jamila also goes to the police with a photo of Isla and reports her missing. At the town celebration, Deborah asks Max for a chance to speak. He mocks her and tells her the campaign has not officially begun. Miki arrives and sits beside Lynn, who tells her to behave normally. Colleen spots her and loses control, accusing Miki of causing Hugh's disappearance just as she caused Jasmine's death. Deborah gently escorts Colleen away. Nearby, Ivy dances with Tim and Kaji. Kevin sees her and angrily tells her to stop embarrassing herself. The teenagers later drink alcohol mixed with drugs. As Deborah prepares to speak, Tim and Connor notice something floating in the river. It is a body. Hugh has been found. Terry immediately takes Miki home before the crowd can turn on her. The next morning, Kevin receives a call from his ex-wife Rachel, a police investigator. She is coming to Savage River to help with Hugh's murder case. She asks the family not to tell Ivy because she wants to surprise her daughter. At breakfast, Miki tells Terry she did not kill Hugh. Terry says he believes her. He also explains how difficult life became after she went to prison. Adam and other kids regularly attacked him because of what Miki had been accused of doing. Rachel arrives at the river and meets Bill. Hugh has a wound in his abdomen, but no murder weapon has been recovered. His car is missing. Bill points out that Savage River had almost no serious violent crime for years, and then Hugh is killed immediately after Miki returns. Rachel visits Ivy at the pharmacy and suggests they spend time together when she finishes the case. Adam takes Colleen to identify Hugh's body. He tries to protect her at first, but eventually she has to see him. Her screams echo through the morgue. That evening, Miki comes home and finds Rachel waiting. Rachel asks about Miki's argument with Hugh. Miki says Hugh was angry because of Jasmine and insists she had nothing to do with his death. Rachel makes it clear she intends to follow the evidence wherever it leads. Later, Rachel watches an old recording of Miki being questioned after Jasmine died. Bill accuses teenage Miki of holding Jasmine under the water. Miki is seen crying and insisting she never meant for her friend to die. Back at Terry's place, Miki hears a noise outside. Somebody has thrown a severed animal head onto the doorstep. Miki assumes Nick did it and leaves the grotesque gift outside his home in return. Rachel questions Colleen about Hugh's movements and learns several $1,000s are missing from their bank account. Colleen believed Hugh had gone to see his brother, but that story was false. The forensic report estimates Hugh died in the river sometime between 5 and 11 on Wednesday. When Miki reports to the station, Rachel asks for her exact timeline. Miki says she finished work around 4. Nick locked her in the freezer. She eventually escaped, and she went home. She does not mention the body. When Rachel asks for an alibi, Miki says Lynn saw her afterward and that she slept because she was exhausted. Jamila attends Simon's English class and asks him to help find Isla. Simon writes the word missing across copies of Isla's photograph, and they begin posting them around town. Chandra meets Terry privately and tells him something important. She says they have become close, then admits she plans to leave town after Kevin sells the abattoir. Terry kisses her. Chandra pulls away, reminding him she is still married and asking him not to tell anyone about her plans. At the supermarket, gossip spreads that Hugh may have run away with a refugee woman. Miki overhears people saying she is probably responsible for his death. Rachel questions Lynn about Wednesday. Lynn says she was caring for Ocean because Terry worked nights and claims Miki came home around 5. Rachel reminds her that Hugh was Jasmine's father and that Miki has a history connected to that family. At the refugee housing, Kevin orders everyone to clean before investors arrive. Jamila complains in Arabic about broken facilities, power outages, and filthy bathrooms. Salem refuses to translate. Kevin threatens to contact immigration if the place is not cleaned. Miki arrives and meets Simon, who invites her for a drink. She asks about Isla. When Jamila joins them, Miki asks whether Hugh and Isla could have been involved romantically. Jamila strongly denies it and says her sister is a good person. Rachel later has lunch with Kevin and the family. She says she currently suspects Miki, but needs either the murder weapon or Hugh's missing car before she can prove anything. Miki visits Joel and asks why she saw him give a knife to Salem. Joel says his own knife went missing and changes the subject. They share a drink in his caravan, and Joel kisses her. Before things go further, Terry calls Miki home for family dinner. Miki asks Joel whether Nick could have hurt Isla or killed Hugh. Joel says Nick is not that kind of person. He also explains that locking new workers in the freezer is one of Nick's stupid pranks, not something specifically aimed at Miki. Rachel notices Ivy is behaving differently and suspects she is hiding something. Ivy finally admits she knows where Hugh's car is and leads Rachel to the vehicle in the woods. Inside, Rachel finds the blood-soaked cloth. Forensics photographs the scene and discovers a boot print nearby. At the bar, Miki confronts Nick over the animal head. Adam interrupts and admits he left it. He demands to know whether Miki stole money from Hugh or made him leave town. Miki denies everything. She later meets Simon and takes a walk with him. Joel sees them together and is obviously jealous. At Simon's place, Miki admits she had feelings for him when he was her teacher. The conversation is interrupted by Terry calling her home again. Forensics finds an envelope in Hugh's car with Isla's name and a number. Rachel and Bill trace it to a maternity ward. The discovery changes the investigation. Rachel has to tell Colleen that Hugh was helping Isla during a pregnancy. Colleen assumes the worst and is devastated by the possibility her husband was having an affair. When Adam gets home, he finds Colleen throwing Hugh's clothes around the room. She says she spent 35 years married to him and now feels as if she never knew him. At dinner, Lynn reveals that Ocean saw Terry kissing Chandra. Miki is shocked because Chandra is married. Terry admits Chandra said she would leave town after the abattoir sale and makes everyone promise not to repeat it. Bill starts considering Salem as a suspect, believing Hugh's involvement with Isla may have brought shame on the family. Then Isla suddenly returns to Savage River. Simon meets her at the bus. Rachel and Bill question Salem about the boot print. Salem points out that nearly every abattoir worker wears the same type and size of work boots. His own are size 9, and many workers wear them outside the plant. Simon drives Isla home and tells her not to tell anyone more than necessary. When Jamila sees her sister, she is furious and relieved at the same time. Rachel arrives with Bill and asks where Isla has been. Isla says she was at the hospital because she became pregnant and chose to terminate the pregnancy. Hugh helped her arrange everything. She is shocked to learn he has been murdered. Rachel asks who the father was. Isla says Nick. The next morning, Joel gives Miki a ride to work. Rachel and Bill question Nick. Rachel believes Nick had a motive to kill Hugh because Hugh helped Isla terminate his child. Bill defends Nick, saying he has known him his entire life. Rachel points out that Nick had access to knives and wore the same boots found at the scene. Nick learns Isla is back and immediately calls her. Rachel reviews Hugh's phone records and discovers a call to Connor. Connor says Hugh only asked how insulin should be stored and that the conversation lasted less than a minute. Nick brings flowers to Isla. Salem initially refuses to let him see her. Isla eventually comes outside. Nick asks why she ended the pregnancy. She explains that she did not want a child and wants to finish her education and become an engineer. That is why their relationship had been kept secret. At the police station, Bill receives an anonymous message saying the murder weapon can be found in an abattoir worker's locker. Rachel thinks someone is manipulating them, but Bill insists they have nothing to lose by checking. At the plant, investors arrive while Kevin begins giving them a tour. Miki enters the changing room and finds a knife wrapped inside her locker. She immediately realizes somebody is framing her. Rachel and Bill arrive seconds later to search the lockers. Miki hides the knife before they reach hers. The search turns up nothing. Rachel warns Miki that if she is hiding anything, the consequences will be serious. Miki returns to work but develops stomach pain. Kevin tells her to go home. Bill reports that the locker search did reveal drugs among the workers' belongings. Rachel is more interested in the anonymous tip. Whoever sent it knew Hugh was killed with a knife before that information was public. Outside, Miki sees Nick with Isla and accuses him of trying to frame her. Nick says she is paranoid. He also tells her Isla will be getting her job back. Miki rides to the river and takes the hidden knife from her bag. The sight triggers memories of Jasmine warning that someone could die if a secret came out. Miki remembers telling police she never meant to kill Jasmine. Instead of throwing the knife away, she puts it back in her bag. She recognizes that it may be evidence. Isla visits Colleen and explains the truth. She was with Nick, not Hugh. Hugh only helped her when she had nobody else to turn to. Isla offers to repay every dollar Hugh spent, but Colleen refuses. She now realizes her husband was protecting a vulnerable young woman, not betraying her. Police identify the weapon as a short skinning knife with a damaged section. Miki tells Lynn someone planted it in her locker. Lynn says the easiest solution is to get rid of it. Miki refuses because the knife proves someone is trying to set her up. Bill arrives at the house and searches through kitchen knives while casually questioning why Miki left work early. After he goes, Lynn grabs the knife and says she will take it to police and claims she found it on the road. At the station, Lynn overhears Bill on the phone saying he wants to arrest Miki but cannot do it without evidence. She leaves without handing over the weapon. Deborah is rehearsing a political speech when Connor tells her she has a real chance to win. They discuss Tim, and Connor surprises her by producing adoption papers. He has decided he wants to formally adopt their foster son. At the abattoir, workers worry that the sale will cost them their jobs. Salem argues investors might actually create more opportunities. Miki asks Brenda what time she arrived on the morning after Hugh died. Brenda says 6, before Adam brought in a shipment. When Miki asks Lynn what happened at the station, Lynn lies and says she never went. Miki puts the knife back into her own bag and becomes convinced Adam must have planted it. At a town meeting, Kevin announces to Chandra that the investors agreed to the purchase. Terry watches them hug and looks jealous. Workers confront Max about allowing the sale. Miki arrives with Simon just as Rachel announces she has information about Hugh's murder. Rachel tells the crowd the weapon is a skinning knife. Miki stands up. She takes the knife from her bag and tells everyone it was planted in her locker. Adam lunges at her in fury. Bill intervenes and takes Miki into custody. The next day, Miki is allowed phone calls from jail. Lynn tells her to stay silent and promises she will handle things. Meanwhile, Kevin prepares to sign the sale papers. Nick and Joel decide to sabotage his car with fireworks. The stunt goes off while the investors are nearby. Lynn asks Deborah to represent Miki. Deborah hesitates because criminal defense is not her specialty and because helping the most hated woman in town could destroy her mayoral campaign. Connor warns her about exactly that. Lynn breaks down and explains how losing Miki to prison nearly destroyed the family. Terry turned to drugs, and she cannot watch everything happen again. Salem tries to push Isla toward marrying Nick. Isla tells him to stay out of her choices. After she walks away, Salem admits to Jamila that the knife Miki produced is actually his. Jamila reveals she already told police Salem was with her the night Hugh died. Rachel is reviewing Jasmine's old file when Bill tells her Deborah has agreed to defend Miki. The investors pull out of Kevin's deal because of the fireworks incident and the growing criminal investigation. Kevin blames Chandra and everyone else around him. Rachel arrives but has little sympathy. Ivy receives a romantic message from her secret boyfriend. Chandra tells Rachel the family may leave town. Kevin says Ivy will not be going with Rachel. Rachel tells Ivy she wants her in her life, but Ivy says she loves Savage River and does not want to leave. Later, Rachel discovers birth control pills in Ivy's bedroom, confirming her daughter is hiding a relationship. At the station, Rachel tells Bill she no longer believes Miki killed Hugh. Bill suggests a self-defense theory. Hugh confronted her, Miki panicked, and she stabbed him. Rachel is unconvinced. She also notices a page missing from Jasmine's autopsy report and asks Bill to locate it. During Miki's interrogation, Rachel warns her not to tamper with evidence. Deborah points out that the knife has not yet been conclusively matched to Hugh's wound. Miki says she kept it because it is evidence against whoever planted it. Bill explains the anonymous tip came from a public payphone. Deborah argues that the tipster is probably the same person who planted the knife. With no fingerprints and no direct evidence tying Miki to the murder, there is no legal reason to hold her. Afterward, Miki asks why Deborah decided to help. Deborah says Lynn begged her and made her understand how much the family already lost. Miki then says something important. They are investigating the wrong crime scene. Hugh was not killed in the river. He died at the abattoir. Rachel returns to the plant and shows employees a photograph of the knife. Nobody admits knowing it. Kevin fires Nick for the fireworks prank, blaming him for destroying the sale. Rachel asks for surveillance footage to determine who placed the knife in Miki's locker. Kevin says the camera system is down. She asks for attendance records and learns Kevin stayed much later than he first claimed. Outside, Nick tells Rachel something else. On the night Hugh disappeared, Nick came back to the plant intending to release Miki from the freezer. He saw Kevin's car still there, so he stayed away. According to Nick, Kevin remained at the plant until around 1 in the morning. Rachel questions Chandra. Chandra says she was asleep in her son's room and later found Kevin in bed near dawn. She cannot confirm when he arrived. Meanwhile, Terry apologizes to Chandra for repeating her plans to Miki. Chandra kisses him, but their moment is interrupted when Rachel arrives. Forensics finally confirms that the knife Miki found is the murder weapon. There are no fingerprints or DNA because it was cleaned with a specific chemical. Rachel releases Miki because there is still no proof she used it. Miki goes to Terry's house, but he refuses to let her inside. He says Ocean is there, and he cannot risk bringing danger around his daughter. Rachel asks Connor whether the pharmacy stocks the chemical used to erase biological evidence. Connor says no. When Ivy arrives, Rachel confronts her about the birth control pills. Ivy angrily says they are for cramps and claims she got them from a family planning clinic. At the bar, Deborah asks Miki whether she is ready to tell police what really happened at the abattoir. Miki reminds Deborah that she is her lawyer and therefore bound by confidentiality. Simon offers Miki a ride. At the same time, Deborah officially announces her mayoral campaign and proposes a plan for the workers to buy the abattoir collectively so the profits and decisions stay with them. Adam publicly attacks Deborah for helping the woman he believes killed his father. In Simon's car, Miki finally tells him there is another secret connected to Jasmine. The reason she fought with Jasmine all those years ago involved Simon. Miki says Jasmine confessed she was involved with an older man, someone Miki herself had feelings for. Miki always assumed Jasmine meant Simon. Simon is stunned. He swears he never had any relationship with Jasmine. That means Miki has spent 10 years believing the wrong thing. She breaks into Jasmine's old room and searches through belongings until she discovers journals marked with the letter K. Memories return. At the river, Jasmine had admitted she was seeing an older man but refused to say his name. Miki became furious and pushed her underwater during the argument. Jasmine fought free. Miki leaves the room and goes back to the river, overwhelmed by guilt. Joel sees her in the water and thinks she is trying to drown herself. He goes after her. Once Miki is safe, Joel tells her something else. The knife she found belongs to Salem. Its handle was damaged and needed repair. They confront Salem. Salem says he cannot talk to police because his visa expires in 6 months, and any admission of illegal activity could get the family deported. Eventually, he explains that Kevin underpays workers, so he and Nick secretly took meat from the plant and sold it elsewhere. That is why Salem feared losing his job over the missing knife. Then Salem reveals the most important thing he saw. On the night Hugh disappeared, Kevin was loading something large into his car. The next day, Hugh was missing. Miki wants to tell police. Salem warns that doing so could expose the refugee families and create immigration problems for Jamila and Isla. Joel reminds Miki that Kevin and Connor are close friends and that Rachel is Kevin's ex. Accusing him could explode across half the town. Then Miki remembers Jasmine's journals. The letter K. Kevin's name begins with K. He is also old enough to fit Jasmine's description of the man she was seeing. The next morning, Salem goes to the station with Jamila and Isla and finally agrees to testify. Rachel moves quickly and arrests Kevin on suspicion connected to Hugh's death. Meanwhile, Simon discovers security footage showing Miki washing blood from herself on the night Hugh died. The series then shows us what happened from Hugh's side. After digging up Jasmine's time capsule, Hugh found one of her journals. Something inside shocked him. He called somebody and arranged a meeting, taking the journal with him. Back in the present, Bill questions Kevin. Kevin says he stayed late doing paperwork, called investors, and then went home. Chandra insists her husband is innocent. Rachel receives a message from Terry saying he booked Chandra a hotel room. Max continues campaigning with Simon and sarcastically thanks Miki for hurting Deborah's chances. During interrogation, Bill reveals that the computer in Kevin's car shows he left the abattoir around 2 in the morning, not 9:30 as he claimed. Bill also confronts him with Salem's testimony about stolen meat. Miki arrives and asks Rachel to question Kevin about Jasmine. She explains the journals and the older man. Rachel doubts the theory. She says after she and Kevin separated, Kevin left for Bali, met Chandra, and eventually married her. Kevin asks for a lawyer. As Miki leaves, she notices Bill's surname, Kirby, another K. Now her suspicions shift again. Simon tells Connor about the surveillance footage showing Miki washing blood from her clothes. Connor tells him that if Kevin is their friend, they cannot hide important evidence from police. Miki visits Colleen and shows her the journals marked K. She asks whether Jasmine might have been involved with Bill Kirby. Colleen rejects the idea. Bill's wife has cancer, and he has been devoted to caring for her. Colleen also says there were no journals inside the time capsule when she saw it. That means Hugh removed them before he died. At the hotel, Terry prepares a romantic evening for Chandra. She drives there but cannot bring herself to betray Kevin and leaves without going inside. Rachel and Bill review the video of Miki. Simon asks them not to tell her he provided it. Rachel says the blood could easily have come from the abattoir and notes that Miki cannot drive, making it difficult for her to transport Hugh's body and car alone. Bill continues pushing the theory that Miki is responsible and says a jury would believe it once they saw the footage. Rachel confronts Lynn about lying. She says the cameras show Miki was not home at 5. Lynn refuses to give up the truth and says she will protect her daughter. Miki asks Joel about Connor. Connor is older. His name begins with a K sound. Jasmine once worked for him. The possibility takes hold. Miki goes to Deborah and Connor's house and says she is ready to write a confession. Deborah, worried about the campaign, gives her pen and paper and briefly leaves the room. Miki uses the opportunity to search. In a storage area, she finds the exact chemical forensics said was used to clean the murder weapon. Connor has access to it. Miki photographs the container. Connor comes home unexpectedly, forcing Miki to put everything back and leave before she is caught. When Deborah checks the paper afterward, Miki has written only one message. She knows who killed Hugh. Rachel goes to the pharmacy and finds it closed. She contacts Chandra while trying to locate Ivy. Miki arrives and shows Rachel the photograph of the chemical. She lays out her theory. Connor was involved with Jasmine years ago. Hugh discovered the journals and confronted him. Connor killed Hugh, cleaned the knife with the chemical, and planted it in Miki's locker to frame the easiest suspect in town. Rachel says a photograph of a cleaning product is not enough. She also tells Miki about the surveillance video showing her covered in blood. Miki finally admits the truth. Nick locked her in the freezer. When she escaped, Hugh's body fell onto her. She panicked and ran. Rachel says Miki must come to the station and give a formal statement. Miki refuses because she no longer trusts Bill. If Connor is connected to the old Jasmine case, Bill may have protected him before. Miki texts Connor and claims she has Jasmine's journals. She tells him to meet her at the abattoir. Connor reads the message and panics. Before Miki reaches the plant, Adam sees her and follows in his car. Consumed by anger over his father, he hits Miki with the vehicle and knocks her unconscious. At the police station, Rachel pressures Kevin over Ivy's disappearance. Kevin eventually admits part of the truth about Hugh. He did move the body. He says he arrived at the plant and found Hugh already dead. Because Kevin was deep in debt and terrified the murder would destroy the pending sale, he put Hugh in his car, dumped the body in the river, and cleaned the blood from the abattoir. Kevin insists he did not kill him. Rachel tells him that moving a corpse and contaminating a murder scene are still serious crimes, and that the plant will likely be shut down. Meanwhile, Ivy is with her secret boyfriend. It is Connor. He tells Ivy how lucky he feels to have her and suggests they leave town and travel together. Ivy is thrilled. Connor kisses her. Tim and Kaji happen to see them. Rachel is desperately trying to locate Ivy when Tim and Kaji tell Bill what they witnessed. Miki regains consciousness and eventually reaches the abattoir. Connor arrives with Ivy in the car. He tells her he only needs to stop at the plant briefly before they leave. At the station, Bill finally breaks. He shows Rachel footage of Connor using the public payphone to send the anonymous tip about the knife. Then Bill admits Connor was the person who planted the weapon in Miki's locker. Rachel demands to know why Bill is finally telling the truth. Bill says Connor has Ivy. That changes everything. At the abattoir, Connor realizes Miki sent the message about the journals. He demands to know where they are. Miki keeps him talking. Slowly, Connor admits that he did have a relationship with Jasmine. Miki's phone is recording. Connor notices it. He lunges for the device, but Miki hits him and runs. Connor chases her through the plant, promising he will let her leave if she gives him the phone and the journals. Then Ivy calls out. Connor becomes distracted. Miki escapes to an upper level. Connor grabs a gun and follows. He claims Hugh came at him with a knife and that Hugh's death was self-defense. According to Connor, Hugh had discovered the truth about Jasmine and was going to destroy him. Ivy appears behind Connor. He orders her to return to the car. Miki steps out from hiding. Connor points the gun at her and demands the journals. Then Rachel arrives and calls Ivy's name. Connor turns the weapon toward Rachel. Ivy reacts instinctively. She shoves Connor over the edge. He falls to the floor below and is fatally injured. Several days later, Miki visits Jasmine's grave. Joel joins her. He kisses her and says he will miss her. Around town, relationships begin changing. Nick becomes closer to Isla and her family and even tries learning Arabic so he can communicate better. Miki goes home and packs. She asks Terry to tell Ocean goodbye because leaving the little girl is going to hurt. Deborah quietly throws Connor's remote control into the river and asks Tim to forget some of what he witnessed. Miki later sits at the police station when Rachel arrives with one final piece of information. Rachel says she has decided to remain in Savage River so she can stay near Ivy. Then she tells Miki about the missing page from Jasmine's autopsy report. Bill removed it years earlier to protect Connor. The missing page changes everything. Jasmine did not die from drowning. A feather entered her lung and caused suffocation. Miki is stunned. For 10 years, she believed her angry struggle with Jasmine in the river killed her best friend. She went to prison carrying that guilt and was treated by the entire town as a murderer. But the official medical evidence says Jasmine's actual cause of death was different. Miki did not kill her. Rachel apologizes for what happened and asks Miki not to leave Savage River. Miki sits in silence as memories of Jasmine return. For the first time in 10 years, those memories are not only about guilt, they are also about friendship, confusion, and a life that was stolen from both of them. Then Miki begins to laugh, overwhelmed by the impossible truth that after spending a decade believing she deserved punishment, she is finally hearing that the crime defining her identity was never hers. Miki's relationship with Jasmine continues haunting the investigation even when nobody is talking about the old case directly. To the town, Jasmine is mostly remembered as the innocent girl Miki killed. To Miki, however, Jasmine remains a real person full of secrets, contradictions, and memories that do not fit the simple murder story. The journals force Miki to revisit moments she has spent years trying not to examine. She remembers jealousy, anger, and the struggle in the river. She remembers believing Jasmine betrayed her by becoming involved with an older man Miki herself admired. The letter K becomes important because Miki realizes she may have built the entire motive around a mistaken assumption. She thought Jasmine meant Simon. Simon's denial opens the possibility that somebody else had been exploiting Jasmine, and that the truth about her death was buried before Miki ever went to prison. Hugh's decision to dig up the time capsule now looks different too. He was not simply mourning his daughter. He found information that sent him to meet someone late at night, and that meeting ended with him dead. The present-day murder and the 10-year-old tragedy slowly begin folding into the same mystery. Rachel's arrival changes the tone of the investigation because she is less willing than Bill to rely on Savage River's assumptions. She suspects Miki at first, and the timing certainly looks terrible, but she keeps testing each fact instead of treating Miki's reputation as evidence. When the boot print could belong to multiple workers, Rachel says so. When Hugh's phone records reveal calls that do not fit the affair theory, she follows them. When the knife is found without prints, she asks who knew enough to plant it. When Kevin's timeline contradicts his car data, she pushes him harder. Most importantly, Rachel notices that Bill repeatedly tries to steer the case toward Miki. At first, his attitude can be explained by Miki's history. Later, it begins to look like something more. The missing autopsy page from Jasmine's file becomes especially suspicious because old medical evidence should not simply disappear. Rachel does not yet know why Bill removed it, but the missing page proves the past investigation was not as clean as everyone believed. By the time Miki accuses Connor, Rachel still does not fully trust her, yet she has learned enough to stop dismissing what Miki says simply because the source is a convicted woman. The younger characters create another layer of secrecy around the adults. Ivy is hiding a relationship she knows her family would never approve of, and her secrecy makes Rachel think she is dealing with ordinary teenage rebellion. Tim and Kaji know pieces of Ivy's private life, but not the danger she is actually in. Nick and Isla keep their relationship hidden because Isla is focused on education and does not want her family controlling her future. Salem tries to protect his relatives while also hiding illegal activity at the abattoir. Joel becomes protective of Miki, even though he does not fully understand how much she is withholding. Adam is consumed by grief and anger, making Miki the easiest target whenever something goes wrong. Ocean, meanwhile, is too young to understand why adults become tense every time her aunt's name appears in conversation. All of these private relationships matter because the killer survives by using the same environment of secrecy. Connor can move between respected pharmacist, family friend, foster parent, and hidden predator without most people ever considering that those identities might belong to the same man. His position gives him access, trust, medical knowledge, and the chemical used to clean the knife. Colleen and Adam process Hugh's disappearance in opposite ways, and that difference keeps pushing them toward conflict. Colleen wants explanations, even if those explanations hurt. She questions where Hugh went, why money disappeared from their account, and why he lied about visiting his brother. Adam would rather believe his father left because of Miki than admit Hugh might have kept secrets from the family. Once the pregnancy rumor appears, Colleen's grief becomes mixed with humiliation. She thinks 35 years of marriage may have been built around a man she did not truly know. Isla's conversation eventually gives her a different version of Hugh. He was helping a frightened young woman who did not know where else to turn. He spent money because Isla needed medical support, and he kept it secret because he feared Colleen would misunderstand. That does not erase every lie, but it gives Colleen something less painful to hold on to. Adam never gets that same emotional closure as quickly. He continues viewing Miki through the identity of Jasmine's killer, which is why every new problem feels like another reason to blame her. Miki's romantic life also becomes tangled with the case. Joel treats her like a person before most of Savage River is willing to do the same, and that kindness makes him easy for her to trust. Simon represents something older and more complicated. He encouraged Miki while she was in prison, then stopped visiting, leaving her to wonder whether even the one adult who believed in her eventually decided she was not worth the effort. When Miki tells Simon about the crush she had as a student, she is also testing a memory she built her entire understanding of Jasmine around. Simon's denial therefore matters far beyond romance. If Jasmine was not involved with him, then Miki's jealousy was based on a false assumption. At the same time, Terry's connection with Chandra creates another source of tension inside Miki's family. Terry wants a future of his own, but knows Chandra is still married to Kevin. Everyone in Savage River seems to be carrying a private relationship, and nearly every one of those relationships ends up touching the murder investigation somehow. Kevin's confession does not solve the murder, but it finally explains why the crime scene disappeared. He found Hugh's body at the plant and immediately thought about the sale, his debts, and the investors. Instead of calling police, he treated a dead man like another business problem. He moved the body, cleaned the blood, and dumped Hugh in the river so the abattoir would not become a crime scene. That decision makes him look guilty because it destroys evidence and forces him to lie about his movements. It also creates the exact confusion Connor needs. With the original scene cleaned and the body relocated, investigators naturally begin focusing on the river. Miki's story sounds impossible because there is nothing left at the plant to support it. Kevin's selfishness therefore becomes one of the reasons Connor nearly gets away with murder. Kevin may not have stabbed Hugh, but his attempt to protect his money protects the killer too. The final confrontation works because Miki stops waiting for the town to believe her and creates a situation where Connor has to reveal himself. She knows accusing him publicly will not be enough. He is respected, connected to the police, and protected by years of trust. So she gives him something he cannot ignore, the claim that she has Jasmine's journals. Connor's panic confirms the journals contain information powerful enough to threaten him. At the abattoir, Miki keeps talking instead of attacking. She lets him explain, deny, justify, and finally admit more than he intends. The phone recording becomes the evidence she has been missing since the night Hugh's body fell on her. Connor only discovers the trap after he has already exposed himself. His decision to chase Miki with a gun destroys the respectable identity he spent years building, and Ivy's presence makes the situation even more tragic. She believed Connor loved her. Instead, she is forced to see exactly what kind of man he is, while her own mother races to save her. Bill's role becomes more disturbing the longer Rachel studies the old and new cases. He has been part of Savage River long enough to know every family, every rumor, and every weakness. That familiarity makes his opinions sound like local expertise, but it also lets him guide investigations away from people he wants to protect. With Miki, he never needs much evidence because the town already believes she is dangerous. A planted knife, an erased timeline, and a video of blood on her clothes are enough to create the story he wants. Rachel's insistence on checking details slowly exposes the difference between suspicion and proof. Once Bill finally admits Connor used the payphone and planted the knife, his earlier behavior suddenly makes sense. He was not simply stubborn, he was helping keep Connor out of the center of the investigation. The missing autopsy page proves that protection began long before Hugh died. For Miki, the final medical revelation is almost impossible to process because it changes the meaning of the last decade without giving those years back. She did fight Jasmine in the river. She did act out of anger. She did believe for years that her actions ended her friend's life. But the autopsy says drowning was not the cause of death. That distinction matters legally, morally, and emotionally. Miki has spent 10 years carrying an identity built around being a killer, while the adults who should have investigated properly allowed important evidence to disappear. Rachel's apology cannot restore Miki's youth, relationships, education, or reputation. What it can do is give her permission to imagine a future that is not defined entirely by punishment. That is why her final reaction is not simple happiness. She laughs because the truth is so enormous, painful, and absurd that no ordinary response could possibly contain it. The truth also changes how Miki understands the people who judged her. Some were grieving, some were frightened, and some simply accepted the version of events they were given. That does not excuse the cruelty she endured, but it explains why returning home felt like entering a place frozen in the past. Savage River had already decided who Miki was before she stepped off the bus. By uncovering Hugh's murder and Jasmine's real cause of death, she finally forces the town to confront how dangerous that certainty can be. A rumor, a hidden relationship, a missing report, or a respected man's lie can redirect an entire investigation. Miki's story becomes less about proving she is perfect and more about proving that even someone with a complicated past still deserves the truth before anyone decides her fate.